This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Forescout and Carasoft. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, the drive for velocity of action at DISA, the Pentagon's Comply to Connect plan for cybersecurity, and finding the next generation of cyber talent could be academic. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. The director of the Defense Information Systems Agency is calling for the Defense Department enterprise to hit the gas pedal on its technology efforts. Lieutenant General Robert Skinner, the DISA director and commander of Joint Forces Headquarters DODIN, calls that concept velocity of action. At AFCEA International's TechNet Cyber in Baltimore this week, General Skinner tells me what that term means to him.
Velocity of action is something that when I came into the position, I wanted to highlight to the agency as well as Joint Forces Headquarters DODIN to really get after this notion of we've got to go faster, but it also has to be in the right direction. So that's why I picked velocity. So all of our actions need to be aligned to a particular direction and go faster than what we were then, because if we don't, then we will not win. And while some people say, well, you do something not to lose, I do something to win, and we do something to win. So that's really what the focus of is, to kind of continue to get after the culture of how do we go faster in the right direction to make sure that we are continually in a position of advantage.
The direction that you've established is DISA Next. Last time you were on the program, you talked about your goals for that. How are you seeing those goals realized? What are the kind of the mile markers that you're seeing with DISA Next so far, sir?
Yes, great. We put the DISA Next strategy out about 2 months ago. We're still working through the implementation plan, but at the end of the day, this really focused on how do we make sure that the capabilities that we provide today are there for our warfighters, for our senior leaders, no matter what the situation is. And then the next phase of that is, okay, so how do we modernize that? So as we've gone through the program objective memorandum, the POM process, we've leveraged this strategy to make some resourcing decisions that now is going through the department. We're also looking at the rest of fiscal year 24 as well as the 25 budget and making sure that stays aligned, because we will not make our strategy if we don't realign some of our resources, but at least it gets our people and our force and our personnel focused on these critical areas that our department needs as well as the enterprise.
Mm-hmm. How are you embedding that into the way that the department does business so that it becomes more than just a restructuring, but it becomes the next way that the department does business?
Yes, especially within the agency. So we have this thing called an annual base order. And so as you look at our strategy, which is 5 years, the first year we have put into an annual base order that is task out key objectives and key initiatives and key timelines and key OPRs, that all those individuals now, and the agency understands, this is our focus. And then we have monthly meetings, we have weekly meetings, we have working groups, and then I get an update every couple of months. Unless something is going wrong, then the team pops smoke and says, hey sir, we have an issue, let's address. The key with all this is really it's about the department has asked us to do a number of things. We know we have to do a number of X number of additional things. It really highlights that if we're off track, the earlier we know, then the earlier we can make a decision to go, okay, we'll accept the risk of not making that timeline, or we will adjust resources and maybe accept risk in a different area. So this is part of our day-to-day operation, and we actually have a dashboard that we have set up for the director and the commander to look at, to actually get a day-to-day understanding of how you're progressing along this strategy. So it's really being inculcated in our culture.
I read that one of the elements of DISA Next that you are driving for is to deliver better capabilities, especially OCONUS. Why is that important?
Because everything's going to be global, right? Even if you talk about a potential conflict with the People's Republic of China, it's going to be global. There's a global nature. And so we have to make sure that we have the right computing power and the right hosting abilities and the right access, no matter where our forces are aligned in the world. And if you just look at the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability Contract, we're almost at like $800 million worth of task orders supporting our mission partners. And that doesn't even take into account the work that we're doing on on-prem cloud capabilities that we have with our capability called Stratus. And then we have we're working with industry to bring industry capabilities through our commercial providers on-prem, which is on a DoD facility. We have that working right now in Hawaii, and the next step is to put some of those capabilities in Europe.
When the predecessor to JWCC first started to bubble up, the JEDI contract, the discussion revolved around that as an emerging technology for the department on which to build this platform that you just described. What are the emerging technologies that you and your colleagues are thinking about today? Obviously AI and ML, but what else is over the horizon that you're preparing DISA for and preparing DODIN for today that maybe it won't even be your successor, maybe it will be that person's successor that will be responsible for?
Yeah. When we look out, I know you kind of glossed a little bit over AI and ML, that and quantum computing is the significant technologies that we have to make sure that we are in a position of advantage. So we're looking at that right now to go, how do we better leverage AI to solve the problems of today, but more important, just as important, the problems of tomorrow and into the future. And leveraging those technologies to also, how do we have a better force, right? Because it's not the technology that's going to make us, that makes us the best at what we do, it's our people. And so how do we make sure that our people that, from the academic world, right, even as the kindergartners of today are the ones that are going to be in our positions well into the future. So how do we make sure that they have the right pipeline and the right academic structure and education opportunities to make sure that we have more people like you and us available to do our nation's business.
How are you doing that? What is DISA's role in being able to cultivate that workforce to have the people that you need, not just now, but at some future date?
So we have, as part of our DISA Next strategy, we also have Workforce 2025, but we're working on our Workforce Next strategy, which really gets at how do we leverage academia as well as our civilian hiring process to really dig deep into even the high schools and identify that talent early and give them opportunities to see what Department of Defense does and get their juices flowing that, hey, I want to be part of this mission, which is something more than myself.
One of the things that I think I've not done well in the times that you and I have spoken, we've talked a lot about your DISA role. We've not spoken as much about your DODIN role. What does that look like? And we've talked a lot about the DODIN mission while we're here, and that will be coming out in our programming in the next couple of weeks. But what's the intersection of those two jobs, and how does one inform the way that you do the other?
Right. Yeah. When you look at DISA and the area of operation for DISA, that's the largest within the Department of Defense. JFHQ-DODIN takes that plus 44 other organizations and area of operations and brings them together. So it is a tough task, but we have an amazing, small but powerful team. We have an amazing team that's getting after each and every day because they are the ones who provide direction to DISA and these other organizations to make sure their cyber posture is where it needs to be. And they're also making sure that when we buy a capability, like a tool or that what is the rest of the story to make sure that tool is usable and it aligns with everything else that we're doing across the enterprise. So very important task. And at the end of the day, JFHQ-DODIN is the one that, on behalf of General Hawk, the Cyber Commander, is the one who's responsible for operating, securing, and defending the third largest network or conglomeration of networks in the world.
We have about a minute left, General. You had an opportunity, I'm sure, to walk the hall and talk to a lot of folks here in industry that would like to work with DISA or are already doing so. What are you telling them you need from them, and what are they telling you that they need from you to be able to make that collaboration work better?
Yeah, they continue wanting to know how they can get their products to us faster and how we can work through the acquisition process. What I ask of them is, I need better critical thinkers. And so how industry are you developing critical thinking? But also I want their products and technologies to be simpler and to be scalable. If they can do that, then the force that I have can be more proficient and be better at what they do and continue to be better than what our adversary can do.
You can read more about all the items General Skinner discussed on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the Pentagon's Comply to Connect plan for cybersecurity. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
Here's Jim Ford, Director for Partner Programs at Microsoft Federal, from the Carasoft Artificial Intelligence for Government Summit.
So one of the things that we're very proud about at Microsoft is that we utilize those principles of responsible AI from the inception of a project. There are also chief responsible AI officers and offices that are embedded with all of our product teams, with our sales teams. Every single employee has to go through training on responsible AI and how that can be not just implemented in a day-to-day basis so that it's almost muscle memory for all of us, but also so that there's a checks and balance system.
For more, go to innovationingov.com.
Welcome back. The Defense Department says it's starting to hit milestones in its zero trust strategy. The department expects to fully implement the strategy by 2027. Mike Walsh is president of Forescout Government Systems at TechNet Cyber this week. He tells me what he sees as the Pentagon makes progress.
For 3 years, we've been doing a program called Comply to Connect. It's a DoD CIO-driven program that has almost 40 mentions in the actual fan chart that makes up Randy Resnick's list of ZT activities. So we're in the middle of it. And we have about 4 million endpoints that are under license now. So we collect a ton of information that is the basis for the device category in ZT. And I say all that just so that people listening to us know that I know what I'm talking about. So what's really happening right now is there's a couple missing pieces that aren't going to be added to it for a little while. So the ZT team at DoD CIO just added more information in the last couple of weeks on the details of what the activities are. And the activities that relate to me are in the device category, one of 7. So what really matters, though, is that it's going to be a while, probably another year, before we get into operational technology. And for people listening, operational technology is things that are not laptops or servers. So it's everything else. Phones, generators that power data centers. It's the battery systems that are inside a data center. It's things that plug in. So I know you're already bored already, Francis. So let me tell you what things are interesting that are plugged in. The pipelines that go to airplanes on a Air Force space. So that base needs gas. Well, there's something that pumps that. That thing's actually electronic. And it's also got 90% of the time an IP connection into either the DoDIN or the internet. And it's that is going to be another year before the ZT activities can be added to it. And what's somewhat controversial in our little world here at the show is that the operational technology activities that are to be attached to OT have a giant threat sitting on top of them right now. So it is discussed widely about the Volt Typhoon espionage hack. And it's in many, as in most, public sector systems. So it may not be in all of them. It may not be in every public sector, but it's in a significant number. And we know that because, well, Cyber Command sees it, NSA sees it, and then we see it because our commercial customers and our other public sector customers install our software. And what's interesting is that it's espionage. It's not there to be malware. They're not trying to do ransomware. They're not trying to turn anything on or off yet, but it's installed. So there's been a series of new updates. So give you an example, our friends at NSA issued a BOD. I think it's 12402, if I remember correctly, which is saying, hey, this is a binary operational directive. You got to go find this thing, and you have to inventory all of your OT stuff, and we want you to report it to us. And most people haven't read it yet, and most people aren't even sure if they want to do it. But we're reaching a crisis stage. It may not be this year, may not be next year, But the proliferation of the Volt Typhoon espionageware is not slowing down.
We have less than a minute left. I'm not bored. This is what I live for.
I'll try.
No, don't do that to me. Very quickly, though, what are you telling your people inside the department, your partners inside the department, that they should do action-wise about the things that you just described?
Inside of this giant program, Comply to Connect, which we are the primary supplier of software, we're telling them, use the OT licenses that you've already bought to at least enumerate what your inventory is so that you can meet the BOD from NSA. Because all of that's going to show up next year in the test that you're going to get from the ZT office to prove that you should get budget funding for your ZT effort. If you miss that, you're going to be in trouble in 26 and in 27.
You can read more about that 2027 deadline on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, finding the next generation of cyber talent could be academic. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
Here's Ryan DeMarco, Federal Account Executive at Glasswall Solutions from Innovation in Government at SoftWeek, presented by Carahsoft.
So in 2022, I'm sure you know, the Biden admin is pushed for zero trust adoption, right? And I think that's been a pivotal moment in cyber. Not only zero trust, but the push for public and private collaboration and secure by design technology, right?
For more, go to innovationingov.com.
Welcome back. The Pentagon's new Cyber Academic Engagement Office will work with academia to find cyber talent. The department's principal director for resources and analysis in the Office of the Chief Information Officer, Mark Gorak, will lead the office. At TechNet Cyber, he tells me why the department stood up the CAEO and what it'll do.
And we're following up from the congressional mandate to stand up an office. And I think the purpose behind the office from the congressional standpoint is to have a one-stop shop where they can come and find out what is going on within the DoD on all of our cyber academic engagements. I'm talking K through 12, I'm talking scholarships, I'm talking research grants and money. How do we then develop, the purpose I like is how do we develop that next generation of cyber warriors? How do we inspire the youth of today to actually pursue STEM and math to go into cyber? Now I go out and talk to kids at academic institutions and I tell them, hey, how many people are interested in working in the federal government? What do you mean federal government? What is that?
Yeah.
How many people are interested in the Department of Defense? Oh, that's just military. No, we have 900,000 civilians that work in the department. They have no idea, right? And then we talk about clearances and keeping yourself out of trouble, but study, stay in math, stay in the sciences. You get a job with the DoD in cyber, you're set for life. Mm-hmm. So that's what really is inspiring. I'm very excited about the launch of this program. I'm building the shop. Finding out everything DoD is doing within the academic space. It's a lot. Every time I uncover a leaf, there are 10 more. I'm like, holy cow, I didn't know we were doing all of this. Yeah. So trying to corral myself around everything the DoD is doing, and then be able to track it and maybe consolidate some for duplicity, or maybe do new things spaces we're not in. You know, if we're in K through 12, but we're only doing stuff in middle school, well, we have a gap. Mm-hmm. And how do I establish programs to fill those gaps?
Beyond the fact that Congress told you to, what was the demand signal inside the department that caused you to want to do this? You told me before we went on the air that you've been wanting to develop this for a long time.
Yeah, as I look at our cyber workforce strategy, and I look at our shortages, last year we were short about 30,000. This year we're short about 27,000. Improvement, yes, but not getting to where we need to get. I said, well, we really have to get after this next generation. How do we inspire, like I said, the kids of the next generation to want to do this? And I think that is the main emphasis behind this, is we have to think longer term. We can't just go after the talent that everyone else is going after today. We have to start creating our talent and getting people interested and just knowing about the department. I think that is the key for me and why I want to do this.
What does this office look like in a mature state, and at what point is that doable in your view?
So we just stood it up by naming me as the director.
Yeah.
I'm an army of one at this point. I think mature, I think it's going to be about 30 people total. Lots of liaisons with academia and with the components, because I need to find out what they're all doing. It's going to have a heavy ledge affairs and a heavy data analysis. Because even though I'm not doing the outreach per se, I'm going to be tracking what we're doing and measuring success. So one of the key components is, for instance, in scholarships. Today, I know how many scholarships we give out in our program in DoD CIO. I know how many NSA gives out. I know how many R&E gives out. But I have no idea how many the components give out. And how much talent do we actually need to attract with scholarships? That's a very high upfront cost. What's the ROI on that? How many people actually graduate the program and then serve in the department or serve in the federal workforce? Those are all metrics that we're not tracking today that I think we need to track.
Yeah.
The other thing on that to cover is the National Centers of Academic Excellence. This program has been going on for about 20 years. It's all of our outreach with 450 different universities and colleges across the country. A great program. I'm going to be their champion. I'm going to bring them in, enhance on what they're doing, expand the program to more colleges, and then get all the components to use that talent. So that's kind of the goal behind that.
You kind of answered the question that I was going to ask next, but I'd like to dig more into it, which is, what do those relationships look like in the long term when they're mature and when they've developed to the degree that you would like them to develop to?
So I guess I have a fundamental philosophy that if you take care of people, they'll take care of you. And if you give them an opportunity and you train them to a standard, then they will give back to you. So that's kind of the thing. And oh, by the way, I'm also a big believer in partnerships. So the nation has a problem here. And I think this program here not only serves the department, not only serves the federal government, but I think it drastically serves the nation for our cyber talent shortfall. So we're estimating about 500,000 USA cyber professional positions that were vacant today. This is a great opportunity to inspire the youth of today to go work in cyber. And I think it's only going to grow.
From a partnership perspective, what does the department intend to offer to academia in exchange for academia helping them to cultivate, develop this generation of talent?
So we provide, I would say, 3 things. The first is we certify their curriculum to our work roles for our knowledge, skills, abilities required in each of our work roles. So if they have a curriculum in cybersecurity, we give them our cybersecurity work roles and say, this is what you need to teach as part of the curriculum. The second thing is we provide research grants and money. That can go to educating teachers, because there's a national shortage of cyber teachers. It can go to equipment, IT equipment. We can get UAVs in there. We can get other cyber ranges and tools that the kids can use. And then the third is we offer scholarships. So that money goes to the schools where we pay the tuition for the applicants going. So I think it's a win-win partnership there. We help them with their curriculum and standards. We help them with their teachers. We give them research and grant money, which then helps the department with what they're researching. And then the students are the key, right? Let's mold and develop these students to then be inspired to work for the federal government.
You mentioned that there will be interaction with the services as you try to learn, get some visibility into what they're doing in these areas. What do you hope to learn from them, and how much of this will become part of your responsibility to actually do it or administer it, and how much of it will just be your responsibility to oversee what they're doing and let them keep doing what they're doing?
Yeah, initially, I'm not stopping anyone from doing anything. The more, the merrier. Let all 1,000 flowers bloom. But as we start gathering the metrics, the true return on investment for the department, and also I want to eliminate competition. I don't want the Navy to compete with the Army on talent. I want to have enough talent to go around for all. And it's maybe compete at an enterprise level so everyone has access to the same talent. So I'm trying to gather all of what they're doing so that I can consolidate and maybe have an enterprise-wide approach. And I think by consolidating a lot of these programs, not every component needs to have a, a 6th grade outreach program. If we consolidate and maybe one component has that everybody then has access to that data, that is, to me, the key.
You've talked about data and how you'll use it to evaluate a number of aspects of what you're doing. How much of the data that you need is being collected but maybe not collated and analyzed, and how much of it's data that maybe nobody's tracking at all right now?
Yeah, good question. Don't know what I don't know. I would hope that we're tracking how many people we give scholarships to. I would hope we then track, when they graduate, how many serve and for how long. Those are longitudinal kind of tracking. Research money is a little more sticky because we give the research money out, but what I want to track is what did the department gain from that? What capability then did we deliver to the department? A lot of these organizations have not had that level of scrutiny. We give the money, they produce something, and no one is really tracking what that output is. I plan on tracking that. And then, precision more on what specific research the department needs, and then where can we help the academic departments.
You can read more about the new CAEO on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in a moment.
Here's Mark Duvall, Vice President of Federal at Cradlepoint from Innovation in Government at SoftWeek, presented by Carasoft.
The soft community has always been the first to respond. So I think they're looking at different technologies like ours with cellular and doing different things with a lot of wireless technologies because they don't want to just rely on one specific technology or one type of communications method, right? That's why they have PACE. So being able to do more than just the primary is key to being able to have resiliency when it comes to the communications out there in the battlefield.
For more, go to innovationingov.com.
Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, the 6th annual Cloud Security Summit's only a couple of weeks away. It's Thursday, July 11th at the Waldorf Astoria in downtown D.C. You'll learn about the latest developments in FedRAMP, advancements in AI authorizations, and a lot more. Speakers from federal, state, and local governments will be on stage. You can read more about it and register at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great week.